feels like we're basically both cropped in the same.
The future is not as futuristic as that.
I mean, it's not as futuristic as the year 2047.
I know, right?
Hey everybody, welcome to another Grimdark Media. I am not the show lead this time around, though. This is Jay in the Cycle.
I might have screwed this up because I forgot we were doing Grimdark Media. I thought I had picked a rom-com for us to cover.
This is I think that my favorite thing about this director is that he's like the mirror universe of an actual like Oscar-winning director. And I wonder how often they get mistaken for each other, and it drives either one of them or the other completely insane.
Absolutely. There's no way either of them is okay with being misrepresented or misinterpreted as the other person.
Yeah, like when Paul Thomas Anderson, the maker of like Magnolia and Punch Drunk Love, gets thanked for making all the Resident Evils. He's married to Maya Rudolph, by the way.
Is he?
PTA is, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I looked both these guys up to be like, how different is their filmography?
Well, what is the most different a filmography could be?
I don't know. I feel like when, like, the number of, it's how many times can you have your wife be in a movie, maybe? I don't think Maya Rudolph has been in as many PTA movies.
That is probably true as Mila Jovovich has.
She's been in a whole bunch of Paul W.S. Anderson movies. Also, how many video game adaptations have you done? Would be the other one.
I feel like at this point with Mila Jovovich, the question is how many not video game adaptations have you done?
Yeah.
That is a much shorter list.
So I wonder if people have guessed yet what movie we're doing. I mean, it's in the title, so they'd have to be stupid to have not. Unless they're.
I also think you mentioned it on. You would have mentioned it last week.
Everybody watches everything I make. We don't know.
What?
I mean, I don't. Maybe they do. Maybe they do.
I thought that's how the internet works.
I don't think it is.
I thought once you were on YouTube, you had to watch it all in sequence.
Well, I have to bear the burden of all the stupid things I say, but I don't think that I don't think people actually like pay attention to all those things. Nice. I hope. I feel like they do, and the weight of that keeps me up at night. But
well, if you have nightmares, those nightmares can have a harsh cost, as we're about to learn.
What do we watch? What do we watch this week?
We watched Ghost Ship. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
The other Ghost Ship?
We watched the other Ghost Ship. We watched Event Horizon.
We watched the thing Ghost Ship is based on. We did watch Event Horizon.
The thing that Ghost Ship is practically a shot-for-shot remake of.
Yes. What do you think about this movie?
Of which one are we talking about now? Are we doing Event Horizon?
We are doing Event Horizon.
We're doing Event Horizon.
How do you like this movie?
I like this movie a lot. I like it in equal measure for what it is and for what it thinks it is. I every time I watch this movie, I enjoy it on two different levels simultaneously and completely unironically.
I absolutely agree. I love this movie because of what I think you summed it up really well. I love this movie for what it's trying to be, and then I also love this movie for what it actually is. Cool. Yes. Paul W.S. Anderson, obviously, this was in 1997.
Yep.
This is one of, I think I looked up his filmography. He's produced quite a few bangers.
Yep.
He produced Pandorum, for instance, which I think is something we'll probably get to.
Yeah, we should do Pandorum.
I didn't even think of that. Pandorum. Little Ben Foster in my day. But he also made a few that I think are legitimately just great. Like Death Race, the remake of Death Race with Jason Statham, I think is a legitimately great movie. What else
and full props, you know what? That movie would have died a death if they hadn't done the fan service moment of having David Carradine right at the start. Like that, honestly, that was like okay, these guys get it. We're good.
He also directed your third favorite Kurt Russell movie. Can you guess which one that is?
My third favorite
Kurt Russell movie? I know what your first two favorites are.
What's going to be my third favorite Kurt Russell movie? I mean, oh, no.
Guess.
He didn't direct Executive Decision.
No, but you're close.
I'm like, oh my God.
That's not your third favorite.
No, it totally isn't. But when he
directed Soldier.
Oh, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
That has the same vibe and feel about that as this does.
He directed
Oh my God, Soldier's so good.
Soldier is so good.
It's so good. You know what? Why didn't I recognize that? Because he's doing the thing where he's borrowing cast members from one movie to the next. I should have. So once we're done the Sam Neill filmography, we'll do the Sean Pertwee filmography.
Yes, we'll do the Sean Pertwee filmography.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Can't wait for Dog Soldiers.
I just want to start our Soldier a deconstruction with both of us trying to hit a snake with a shoe. Just banging on the table, just chasing a snake with a shoe.
Maybe December in the Niagara region wasn't the time to go looking for random snakes wandering around.
No, it would be terrible.
It's not Oshawa. We don't have kangaroos running through our streets.
No, I got an email from my mom though, being like, there was what was the name of the email? There was like a whole thing where they were like doing puns about a situation or something, a situation or something like that. It was a great headline.
Basically, what we're saying is Canada's a weird place. Mm-hmm. It's just a weird place. Just driving down the highway in southern Ontario, kangaroo running next to your car, as they do.
So should we set sail?
Yes, into the black this time. So
dig out our eyes.
Dig out our eyes. We've already spoiled the main part of the movie. Yeah. The eye digging.
It starts in the beginning though. The eye digging starts like right from the beginning, along with the shot stealing from other movies.
Yes. Yeah, because you get that first scene with his wife where she's got the hellfire eyes. Oh, so good, so good.
All right, it's time to set sail then for Bon Voyage.
Testing, radio. This is where we spoil the entire story in Bon Voyage.
All right, so set in the... I'm going to have to use my notes because I'm going to bounce back and forth.
It's all good.
So set in the far future of 2047.
My favorite part was when they said first moon colony 2015, and I was like, oh, that didn't age well.
Yeah, that's...
that was a hopeful 1997 thought.
I'm just hoping to keep burning dinosaurs to keep my car moving.
Yeah.
Event Horizon begins with Dr. Weir. So Dr. Weir is played by Sam Neill. He awakens from a nightmare, sort of, dream, sort of, a remembrance of his wife, which we don't really kind of circle back to in any substantive way until a bit later on.
No.
But he is aboard a space station, shaving in near zero gravity. And then he and the crew of the Lewis and Clark, which is a great name for it's a rescue ship, but it would have been a great name for an explorer ship.
It would have been a great name for an explorer ship, yeah. That one's called the Lois and Clark.
The Lois and Clark, yes.
after the famous early 90s.
The New Adventures of Morpheus.
That's right, yeah, the Lois and Clark.
So they are being dispatched on a rescue mission, which their captain, played by Lawrence Fishburne, Captain Miller.
Captain Apone Miller.
Captain Apone Miller. Yeah, we will get to that in a bit. And Dr. Weir appear to be the only two who have any real information. The rest of the crew are literally the Marines from Aliens. They are in the dark. They're just there because they're getting paid to do a job. And that's their jam.
It's funny because it had Predator vibes too, where it's like there's the CIA guy, there's the commander guy, and like Dr. Weir's kind of the Dylan of this thing where he knows what's going on, but nobody else really knows what's going on until they get out there because it's like super above top secret.
Yeah, because even Captain Miller doesn't get the full details of the ship that they've been sent to recover or save, such as it is.
Air quotes save.
Air quotes save. Yeah, so they head out to Neptune, which did age well because at least they picked something that everybody was still going to think of as a planet in 26 years.
That's true. There was still a planet. Yeah, they didn't go to Pluto.
Yeah, you want to go far,
but not too far.
No.
It's also worth noting that they spend a lot of time getting out there because they have not got faster than light travel.
Correct. So they spend 56 days.
This is as far as they can go. They spend
56 days traveling out there in gravity couches, sleeper berths, which, also reminiscent of Aliens. Even the getting in and out of the berths is a little bit reminiscent.
They're
of
also
Aliens.
all wearing like the same beige tank top and shorts.
And boxers for men and minimalist one size too small undies for the ladies
and jumpsuits. Yeah, and like their cool like zip up one piece like speed suits.
Speed suit.
They're Rusty Venture speed suits. It's a speed suit.
So once they get out there, Captain Miller relays to the crew that they're there.
You just call him Larry. You just call him Larry Fishburne.
Morpheus.
It's played by Larry Fishburne, obviously. The crew, actually, you probably recognize a ton of the crew, and maybe we should actually give them their credit for a second. Captain Miller is played by Lawrence Fishburne. We said that Dr. Weir is played by Sam Neill, but Stark is Jolie Richardson from Nip Tuck, and she was in the North American version, the Fincher movie of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Wasn't she also Mel Gibson's wife's sister in The Patriot? Like
Yes,
she's
she
the
was.
main
Yep,
female
yes, she
character in
was.
The Patriot?
Yep. We got Smitty, played by everyone's favorite Sean Pertwee.
Oh, I love Sean Pertwee.
Being a real Sean Pertwee type in this movie, being a real Mother Superior. We have my personal favorite, which is Cooper, which is Richard T. Jones.
Oh, that's funny because my personal favorite is DJ.
I know you also you like DJ because you like Jason Isaacs,
Yeah,
and he's also playing a real Jason Isaacs type in this. And then we've got that guy Justin, played by Jason Noseworthy, who is like that guy too cute to be a grown up, but obviously 35. He's like a 35-year-old doll of a boy.
He's one of those actors that if you watch like any movie between 92 and 2000, he's in it, but you don't remember that he was in it. Like he's just in a million things.
He looks like the first guy to die in every World War II drama.
Yes.
Like that is his look.
He's the kind of guy that took his helmet off on Omaha Beach.
At the casting call, they're like, we want a guy who is the one who breaks your heart when he dies in a war movie. Like that's what we want. He's like too cute for this world.
Can you make puppy dog eyes and then we're gonna shoot you in the face?
Yeah. And then we've got Peters, which is played by Kathleen Quinlan.
Yeah.
Which is a fantastic cast. So really cool, like a stacked cast of like 90s.
And I gotta say, there was a lot of 90s sci-fi movies that whether they're held in positive or negative regard after the fact, when you go back and look at the cast for these movies, it's amazing that people that you kind of have elevated to the top of their industry now, they were just working actors.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, this is like a working actor sci-fi movie too. And it's funny because this is pre-Matrix Lawrence Fishburne, post-Boys in the Hood.
Yes.
So he's like Boys in the Hood famous, which means he's like critically kind of famous, but he's not necessarily like big blockbuster movie famous yet, which he becomes after he plays Morpheus, obviously.
Yeah, no, him and Sam Neill by far the biggest stars of the movie at the time.
Yeah,
by
definitely.
far.
Well, you know, Jason Isaacs and Sean Pertwee, notwithstanding.
At the time.
In our hearts. In our hearts.
Number one.
Because I'm pretty sure Sharp's rifles had already been made at that point.
This is true. All right, so they head out, at which point Dr. Weir reveals that they have, in a preamble at the start, they allude to a ship that's been lost in 2040, so 7 years earlier, out beyond Neptune, called the Event Horizon. So they are journeying out there now because they've started receiving radio transmissions from this ship that's been missing for 7 years out in the middle of nowhere, and no way could anyone have possibly survived. So instantly, the crew of the Lewis and Clark do the routine from Aliens about, is it a stand-up fight or a bug hunt only? In this case, it's, why are we out here? What a waste of time. There's no way this ship, they get very...
Smitty immediately freaks out. Like, Sean Pertwee immediately just goes like, well, that's impossible, and just walks away.
While holding his cross.
Yes, while holding his cross. It's true, yeah.
While holding his cross, which may become relevant later.
Which may definitely become relevant later.
So during the exposition, Dr. Weir lays out that, because no one knows anything about the Event Horizon. It's this mysterious ship that's traveled out here, disappeared. No one knows anything about it.
Also, they've been lied to. They said that there was like a reactor meltdown and all hands were lost. Like they get, obviously the government's covered up whatever the hell was going on with the Event Horizon.
Correct. So this is the moment where Dr. Weir reveals that the actual purpose of the Event Horizon was that it was a ship that was testing faster than light travel technology. At which point we... Up until and a little bit beyond this point, the movie's very hard sci-fi. Like it looks very fantastic for only being a few years into our future, but it's very grounded. And so this is the point where almost the entire crew, who are they're relatively intelligent, educated people. They're engineers, they're mechanics, they're people who know a lot about a lot of things.
They're portrayed very much, and again, we talked about cribbing, but they're portrayed very much in that blue collar way that the crew in Alien is. The
first Alien,
right?
Movie,
the first Alien movie, and even their ship has this much more utilitarian.
It's very industrial sci-fi,
like industrial sci-fi look to it. Yeah.
Yeah, but they are all people that are knowledgeable about the workings of space travel, and immediately, collectively, for a variety of different reasons, point out that that's not a real thing, that it's just a fairy tale, with different levels of emotional investment in it.
Yeah. All their player classes are immediately explained to Dr. Weir too, where it's like, this guy's a doctor, this guy's his trauma. like they all get their like skill sets explained to Dr. Weir when he comes on board.
Yes, and Sean Pertwee gets the man was not meant to meddle moment here.
Yeah.
Talking about how this can't happen. They also give the very basic, classic explanation of how travel through a wormhole would work, because that's the premise. It's not that the ship is traveling at great speed. It's that the ship is folding space back on itself.
They do the pen thing.
Yeah, they do the pen thing through the paper, which is the classic.
Yeah, I don't know if this was the first time I'd seen that though, because I know that a million movies have done the pen through the paper thing with like folding space and stuff like that. I can't think of a movie that's done the pen through paper thing before that personally. Tell us in the comments what you think the earliest pen through the paper
movie-wise,
thing is.
I don't remember.
That's the one thing I actually think might not be like a shot steal, basically, from another sci-fi movie in this movie.
I do remember that being something that was covered in a science class as an idea when I was in high school.
Sure, yeah.
So I had seen it before, but I don't remember seeing it.
Maybe Black Hole did it. Maybe like something like Black Hole did it. Like I'm just trying to think of like where that scene with the pen and the paper gets used, because that
it does.
I can think of like
probably
think of like a couple other movies that have done it since then, and they're completely out of my head right now. But again,
so once he explains it to them, and basically he doesn't use the word wormhole, but he's basically proposing the idea that this magnetic gravity drive that he's developed for this ship focuses energy, creates a wormhole, which creates a fold in space-time. You basically are simultaneously in both points at the same time, and then space-time unfolds, and you're now in the new place you want it to be.
Right.
So again, you get the man was not meant to meddle speech. The tone starts to shift a bit because it is still a disaster movie at this point. It's still a crisis movie. Like, they're trying to salvage this ship. It's still very grim and gritty. But there's starting to be this creeping undertone of, you may have done something you shouldn't have done.
Yeah, yeah.
And
this got covered up and something weird happened here.
Something weird has happened.
Yeah.
So we go from there to during the mission brief.
And we're firmly in Act 1 still. So they arrive at the ship. And what's funny is all of our shots previous to this of the ship are very like classic sci-fi shots outside. We see the planet, we see these like sort of like traversal shots, but all of a sudden we are presented with the ship and it turns into a castle.
Yes. So the Lewis and Clark, you don't really have a huge sense of scale, right?
Yeah.
In hindsight, it probably is basically the Nostromo in
Yeah.
terms of size and scale and everything. But it is a spaceship in the middle of the void of the blackness of space. When it approaches the event horizon, and you know it's the event horizon because it has event horizon stamped into the front of it in like 100-foot high letters.
It has a Kenny Rogers chicken sign on the front of it that says Event Horizon.
It has a marquee, just in case you missed it.
It has a, we didn't want to make the movie posters typeset have to like be difficult, so we just put this on the front of the spaceship.
But when they roll up to the event horizon is massive.
And it comes out of the clouds like Castle Dracula. Like, there's lightning and thunder, there's clouds all around it for some reason, and we get this like approach to Transylvania shot basically of it looming out of the clouds.
And again, the thing that's funny to me is, in terms of something else cribbing from this, when the Arctic Warrior approaches the ship in Ghost Ship, because they can't see it, and then all of a sudden it's right in front of them, like they're going to crash into it.
I think Ghost Ship's after though, right? Ghost Ship is
after.
Okay, yeah. But that looming out of the clouds, and again, that whole like shot is a classic like approach to a mountain, a castle.
Yep.
Like, it's an old Hollywood shot of
there's a bit of like the fog clears, the sun cracks through the, it's that
a ship
effect.
at sea. Like, they do that. It's a very classic like old like pirate film sort of thing where like a ship, like a Flying Dutchman kind of moment where it comes out of the clouds.
It emerges from nowhere, but it was really there the whole time.
And the lightning is crashed. Like, also there's a lot of sound in space in this movie. There's a lot of thunder in space.
It's funny because I will say the sound in space up until this point in the movie is the only thing that makes it feel not hard sci-fi.
Yeah.
Because everything else about it feels very grounded. Like, it feels like, oh, I could see this. Like, this makes sense. These things work together. But anyway. So they've now discovered the event horizon. So Captain Miller and his crew are making preparations to board the event horizon, and Dr. Weir is desperate to get onto the ship.
Jonesing to get on here. He's like a Jack Russell Terrier want to get on this ship.
And at this point, Captain Miller, who again, very grounded character, he's like, no, Doctor, we secure the ship, we do this, we make sure it's all safe, and then you come over. And Dr. Weir's like, no, I didn't come this far to stay on this ship. I need to be on. So it, again, You had a little bit of a hint of it at the start with the whole dream nightmare sequence with the wife.
Right.
But this is probably the first moment where you're like, yeah, this... And it's not over the top, but this guy's not... His motives are not what he says his motives are.
He's a little fishy, this guy.
Something's up.
It's funny because he tonally changes from being this kind of like, well, I'm a scientist. Like he's very Dr. Grant, and then all of a sudden he's very Ian Malcolm.
and from here forward, his rational scientific demeanor, it becomes very clear that is a put on for other people.
Yeah.
So it is, as the story progresses, it is how he tries to diffuse any implications that anything untoward is happening.
Yeah.
And it's the only time it comes out from this point on. Is it's always a defense against someone else saying, but I just saw that.
Yeah.
No. You didn't see that. That's not a real thing.
Yeah.
You must be imagining that.
Yeah.
Take these pills.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
This will make you feel better.
This will make you feel better.
These pills say arsenic on the side. Anyway, so Captain Miller quickly surmises. I'm sorry. I've already skipped ahead.
Yeah.
So they board the Event Horizon.
Right. Through like an umbilical. They connect the two ships with this like...
Yeah, there's an umbilical. They connect the two ships. They board the Event Horizon. There is a foreshadowing moment that I will leave out of this synopsis until we get to the end.
A plant and payoff. Yeah, there's a plant and payoff.
But then once they get into the main part of the ship, it becomes very clear very quickly that something has gone horribly wrong. Not monstrously wrong, not horror movie wrong at first, but the whole crew has disappeared. There are recordings from the ship's log of screaming. And just in case that wasn't going to convince you that the tone was shifting enough, a bunch of the screaming is in Latin.
Yeah.
Because that's never going to be a good thing.
We get Jason Isaacs being a real Jason Isaacs being like, I know some Latin. And I'm like, why doesn't Dr. Weir know Latin? He's
I know
a
what's
scientist. Half of science is in Latin. Dr. Weir didn't know this. It seems fishy right away that Dr. Weir has no idea what these words mean.
Yeah. And there's also one shot of one of the characters when they board, is it the bridge? I think it's the bridge. Where there's a flash of light and you can see gore just all over the bulkheads and the panels behind her.
It's like a weird Dead Space like flesh growth all over the walls. It's very strange. But no one ever mentions it either.
No.
It's just
and the ship is dark, and in that moment, no one, like, she hasn't seen it, no one else has seen it.
Yeah.
Later on, though, they walk through this area while it's perfectly lit, and it's like, oh, that's flesh wall.
Yeah, it's flesh wall. It's fine. What's funny is the architecture immediately changes too.
Yes.
It becomes like as they enter through the umbilical, it's like they're stepping into a gothic.
So it's actually interesting because it's not, if you think about it, it's not quite when they step through the umbilical, because they go through the umbilical to the foredeck of the ship.
Yeah.
And the foredeck of the ship is similar. It's not the same, but it's similar in its trappings to the Lewis and Clark.
Yeah.
When they go through the connecting structure between the foredeck and the main part of the ship, that's when everything radically changes.
Yeah.
Like, that's when, if you've ever watched a sci-fi movie where a character has to like crawl through a tunnel with like a spinning blade that seems to serve no purpose, and you're like, why would you build that here? Like, why would you do that?
You call it a meat grinder. Like, it looks like a meat grinder, and Dr. Weir's like, it's magnets. It's important magnets. It protects us from the magnet inside the magnet.
But all the magnets are like really sinister looking and shaped oddly, and
it's funny, you're right, because the big it's basically built like it's funny because it's built like the Lex. It's built like a giant dragonfly where there's a huge aft section, and then this pod of the foredeck, and it's connected by this long kind of tunnel. And you're right, the tunnel is still kind of utilitarian.
Yeah.
But both the fore and aft sections have very different architecture.
Yes.
Like the fore section looks like a cathedral, and the aft section looks like, I don't know, it was built by Cenobites. Like,
yes, actually, that's probably the best way to put it. Yeah, there's a lot of everything is black for no reason.
Yeah.
There's a lot of spinning, lumpy, spiky things for no reason.
And it's like etched. Like all of it's like etched too. And Dr. Weir's like, it's for the magnets. Like, sure it is. Okay.
Yeah. Space magnets, I guess, have to be like this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a space magnet expert. Once they've identified the crew's all gone insane, or they've all died horribly, screaming.
There's nobody there. Yeah.
And there is nobody there.
And like the power's all low. It's too cold for anyone to survive. And they're all in spacesuits when they initially arrive.
Yeah. So the ship is the ship is not dead, but the ship is dead in space, basically. So they restore the power. They do all the good stuff that you do in a sci-fi movie when you recover a derelict spaceship. And then as they start to explore, and they're seeing exactly what we were just talking about. The captain, to a greater extent, and the crew, to a lesser extent, all start to have a lot of very pointed questions for Dr. Weir. Why is it like this? What is that thing doing? They find this mysterious sphere surrounded by 3 spinning rings. And one of the characters is like, hey, what's up with this mysterious spinning? And then he's sucked inside of it. And he just disappears.
Poor Justin. Poor Baby Bear.
Yeah,
Baby
Justin
Bear has the worst day.
Justin should have showed up. Should not have showed up for work today.
Yeah, they said, because he's
sick.
one of the 3 that go over initially in their spacesuits. And it's Miller. It's not Cooper. Cooper actually stays to rescue everybody.
Cooper's about to show up now.
That's right. It's Miller, Baby Bear, and I think Peters is the other one.
Yeah, Peters is the one that's in the room with the flesh wall.
That's right. Yeah, and as he gets sucked in, everything activates, and there's this massive explosion.
Yeah, and then your tone shifts again. Now it's a panic. Now it's a disaster.
Yeah.
So Cooper, he Terry Tates his way through the place.
He just blows his way through. I'm coming.
He's like, I'm coming, and he just basically flies towards the sphere. Rescues.
Justin comes flying back out.
I mean,
and he hug grabs him, and then this rope drags because there's no power or gravity yet on the.
He has Justin. Rescues is probably the wrong word, but he has him.
Yeah, but at the same time, things are going wrong back in the Lewis and Clark because this explosion's ripped a hole in the side.
Yes. So now the Lewis and Clark is not currently viable as a ship, so they quickly migrate everybody over to the Event Horizon, which at the time seems like it's a permanent solution. They bring their oxygen scrubbers with them. So they basically use equipment from the Lewis and Clark to restore the Event Horizon to being in a fully useful, functional state. Theoretically. So again, their problem is that they've gone from a small ship to a big ship, and the equipment they have from the small ship will only sustain them for a short amount of time, 20
hours, I think, yeah.
In the bigger ship. Justin is catatonic. He's not injured. There doesn't appear to be anything physically wrong with him, but he's just not there.
Just staring
his eyes are open, looking at nothing.
Yeah, looking so pathetic and like, oh my God, please protect this kid.
Yes,
he's having his shell shock moment. Like he's not having a good day.
This is moment number 1 where you think Justin's not going to make it. Don't worry, there will be many more moments where you think Justin's not going to make it.
He's the punching bag of the spaceship. He just gets the shit hammered out of him for no reason.
It feels
immediately picks him. Like it's so
it
great.
feels like there's moments in the movie where they're like, oh, we should place a character in peril. Oh, we're going to need this other character for later. You know what? Just do Justin again. Just do Justin again. That's fine.
He can take a little bit more.
He's Kenny.
He'll be fine.
He's Kenny. He couldn't be more Kenny if he had an orange snowsuit
Baby Bear. Like they make him so pathetic. Could you imagine being cast for that guy? Who are you in Event Horizon? Oh, I was the dude that just kept getting fucked up over and over again.
So again, you've got the flesh wall.
And this is kind of the end of Act 1.
Yes.
I guess Act 1 is kind of ended now.
Act 1 is ended. You've got the flesh wall. You've got the screaming.
Yeah.
You've got the screaming in Latin. You've got Baby Bear being sucked into the sphere of whatever the hell he was sucked into. Because again, I'm not a scientist, but I'm pretty sure magnets aren't supposed to suck people into them and then be porous in that way.
No.
Yeah, okay.
And no one witnesses this either.
No.
And we've also got Smitty and Cooper being told we have 20 hours to fix Lewis and Clark or nobody goes home.
Yes. So they reconvene in the mess hall. No, I'm sorry, that was Alien. They reconvene on the bridge.
The bridge that also is my favorite thing about the set design of the bridge is like, and this is in the Lewis and Clark. The set design on the bridge in the Event Horizon looks like the nave of a cathedral. It has these pillars going up. Like even like the metal sectioning on it looks like bricks. Like it's all cut in little squares to look like bricks. The Lewis and Clark has one spinny chair that Larry gets to sit in, and then just nothing but like Staples office chairs that the rest of the crew are.
Well, yeah, because there was only one spinny chair to lift from the APC and Aliens.
That's right. Yeah.
So they didn't have a second one. They just had to use that one.
Yeah, it's great.
So anyway, that's Gorman's chair. Why are you sitting in Gorman's chair?
The whole budget went into Castle Frankenstein. That is the Event Horizon.
So the questions become more pointed. How does this work? Yeah. Why does it work this way? No. It's just science. It's science. It's science. The thing you think happened didn't happen. Science. it's okay science.
Yeah. And everybody starts to see things at this point too.
Yes. So I mentioned earlier at the start of the movie, you have this like one kind of dream nightmare thing with Dr. Weir, and it's fairly low key. Like it seems like it could be part of a character's backstory without being part of a horror movie character's backstory. But now all the other characters are starting to see things, and things that may be there, things that may not be there. At this stage in the movie, all of these things happen to characters when they are alone.
Yeah.
So it's very unclear as a viewer if they are hallucinating these things or if they're imagining these things or if these things are real. You don't really know.
Yeah, Peters has this point in payoff early on where you realize that to come out here on this emergency trip, she's had to give her ex-husband like the 6 months with their son, and that she's feeling guilty about it. And then she immediately like sees her son running through the ship.
Yeah, and then she like when they take Justin to sickbay, she sees her son injured in sickbay
with like tumor legs.
Yeah, but again, she's the only one there. She's the only one who sees this. And so early on, your tone is you don't know if if this is a psychological thing, if these characters are losing their mind, if something's making them lose their mind, or if there's something real there. So anyway, science. Everybody starts to get really sick of that and understand. No, this isn't real science.
Well,
what
there's
have you
two
done?
characters who don't actually see anything, and it's Cooper and Smitty. And it's because Cooper and Smitty aren't on the event horizon.
Correct.
They're fixing the other ship. And Smitty is melting down, not wanting to go anywhere near the event horizon. And Cooper's just like,
yeah, Cooper is just
an absolute hero throughout the entire thing.
Cooper is probably he's up there with Miller as like the most grounded character in the movie.
Yeah.
Because to him it's like problem, solution, move through it, like work the problem, right? Yeah. Smitty, again, and they're not really over the top with this, but he has a tendency to fidget with his crucifix a lot. Which, again, as we go on, you realize, oh, maybe you should have bought some of those for everybody.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Do you have an extra of those? Like
some more of those, yeah.
Anyway, sorry. So now everybody's seeing things. Things are happening. There's a lot of danger. And slowly but surely, as these characters begin losing their mind, it becomes potentially losing their mind, it becomes very clear that Dr. Weir wants to be here. Like, he is not only dismissive of everything going wrong, he's obsessed with getting the event horizon back into working condition. He's the first one to suggest just abandoning the Lewis and Clark. And the whole time, everyone else is like basically telling him that the event horizon isn't sustainable with the equipment they brought over anyway.
We have to get back on the
This is simply not an option.
Yeah.
So more hijinks ensue. Eventually, poor Justin
just disappears.
Not in sickbay anymore. He's been in sickbay and he's been catatonic the whole time.
As they're finishing up the repairs.
So things are about to get better. The sun is about to come out.
Yep.
You can't have a rainbow without the rain.
Yeah, Miller's out on the ship.
Everything's good.
He's inspecting the work. He's like, Cooper, Smitty, you're the best. Let's get the hell out of here. You're doing great.
But Justin has disappeared.
Yeah.
Until they find Justin in an airlock. And the crew members on board are desperate to get him to come back inside. And he is non-responsive.
Yeah.
He's got his back to them. He's not talking to them. He's like a ghoul in a necromancer's lair.
He is like a ghoul in a necromancer's lair. Yeah.
Anyway. So they are desperate to get him to come back inside. They inform the captain that he's in an airlock without a spacesuit on. They don't know what he's doing, and they can't get into him. So the captain starts spacewalking his way
towards the airlock. Yeah.
Towards the airlock, building to a moment that we all know is inevitable now. As they're trying to talk him down, and again to your pathetic thing. All the dialogue is, hey, baby bear, hey, mama bear.
Yeah.
Which is...
Well, he starts off by turning around and being like, they're trying to talk him out of it. And he's like, you wouldn't want to come out of it if you'd seen what I'd seen, if you'd been where I've been. And he's like...
The darkness
inside me is talking to me. And like, it doesn't even seem like it's him.
And it is
maybe not him. Yep. He's just like saying these like weird things about where he's been and what he's seen.
But it's the first time he's started communicating to them. So they're desperately pleading with him to release the inside of the airlock, at which point he reaches out towards the oddly close together interior door, exterior door buttons. Who designed this spaceship? Dr. Weir, you were a monster before you were a monster.
Yeah, it's the meme with the guy sweating and like looking at what button to
Exactly.
push. Except he just immediately pushes the wrong
Yeah,
button.
he just pushes the outside door button. At which point, his whole demeanor changes.
Yeah.
And he's confused. And
Like, what am I doing here? Let me out.
He doesn't know where he is.
Yeah.
He doesn't know why he's in the airlock. So the characters on the inside of the ship are freaking out.
Yeah, DJ runs off to get the trauma kit.
They
Peter's
can't.
just trying to
They
talk
now
about it,
can't.
so-
They no longer have an option to even try and get the door open because now that the outer door is about to open, the inner door can't be opened.
Yeah.
So they're screaming. He's screaming and crying. And Lawrence Fishburne is Lawrence Fishburne screaming. So not like panic screaming.
And he's just screaming.
Do what I tell you.
Yeah.
Curl up into a ball. Close your eyes.
Blow all the air out of your lungs.
And then I have to say, and you know, the movie's from '97. The effects don't necessarily hold up great in every scene.
Yeah.
But this has got to be one of the best horror in space effects shots because he starts bleeding profusely from the eyes as the gravity leaves the.
He lifts up into the air.
He lifts up into the air. He's covered his eyes, and there is just blood going everywhere, and not like rivers of gore, arterial splash, Quentin Tarantino blood. Like just you can make out every drop of blood.
Yeah, yeah. It's got a real like. It looks like it's probably wire work.
Yeah.
But like we're talking like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon quality. Like this is early wire work, right? This is all pre-Matrix.
And it has. It's funny because it's not unsettling in the sense that when you look at it, it's gory or horrible. It's unsettling because you're watching it, and even though you've never seen probably in any other movie what's about to happen next, you know exactly what's about to happen next.
This guy's decompressing in space. Yeah.
So sure enough, outer door opens up. Justin leaves.
Yeah. Justin comes like, but it's funny because it's very slow. Like
Yes.
because they vented all the oxygen out of the room and it's already a vacuum in the room. He just kind of comes like gently spinning out.
Yeah, he basically tumbles out into space.
He isn't like ejected like if like there's like a decompression.
So so he kind of comes tumbling out. Captain Miller launches himself.
Just body tackles him back
basically spears him back onto the ship.
Yeah, he Goldbergs him back into the ship. He Bill Goldbergs him.
Goldbergs him back into the airlock. At which point they shut the outer door. They open the inner door. All the blood falls to the floor. Like Justin's messed up. He's been in a vacuum. His eyes are probably gone. Like everything is bad. He still looks worse than he actually is.
Yeah.
As all the visceral like lands on him.
Yeah.
While he's on the deck.
And then DJ comes ripping in with his trauma kit. As we've been told earlier, he's the trauma guy.
Yeah.
This is his job. He comes in and like
DJ puts a Band-Aid on him,
Yeah.
so we're good.
throws him in the back to tank.
Yeah, throws him in the back of the tank. And Justin continues to not be dead yet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think DJ walks over. So our real like awesome Jason Isaacs moment. He's like, well, he'll never be pretty again, but he's probably gonna live. It's like they had to spoil Justin in every possible way. It wasn't like, oh, it's pretty bad, but I think he'll be okay. It's
why
like
did you hire
he'll
Lu-
never be handsome and pretty. Our pretty little baby bear is now ruined.
Why'd you hire
forever.
Lucius Malfoy to be your doctor? What
It's
a bad
so
choice
great.
this is.
It's so great. His choice of words are incredible. Why did you hire Warlock to be our... Was he? No, he wasn't Warlock. Was he Warlock? He's a real Warlock type if he wasn't Warlock.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but this reveal with the darkness you wouldn't want to live if you'd seen what I'd seen, and then that basically just coming off of him as soon as he's about to die. This is the, even though you've been building to it and it's not like it's a surprise at this point, this is effectively the grand reveal that there is something supernatural, unnatural affecting these characters.
Yeah, this is the inciting incident. And actually, right afterwards, Miller has his vision. And this is kind of the moment where Miller flips to like thinking something's actually going on. Because Miller sees someone who couldn't be there.
Yeah, Miller basically sees a character from his backstory that he had to, you find out much later on, had to leave behind to die on an earlier mission.
Someone
with
he couldn't
different
save.
crew. Someone he couldn't save. And this is his entire character motivation.
Yeah.
But again, the thing they've still kept up to this point is that everything these characters are seeing, they're seeing by themselves. So there's no one there to, did you see what I just saw? There's none of that. And even the first character to die, they chase what could be a hallucination into a trap.
Yep.
But nothing physically affects them in the world other than them falling to their death.
That's right. And it's funny because we still have cast members and crew members who haven't seen anything.
Yep.
Who are giving us that sense of doubt of maybe it's not happening. Maybe this isn't happening. Because like Smitty's just like, nope, fuck this ship. Let's get out of here. I don't care. Like, I don't need to be over there. I think Cooper at one point says, "You trying to get my record for like spacewalks?" And he's like, "I would rather stay out in space for 100 more hours than spend 5 minutes on this goddamn ship. Let's get out of here. I want to go." And so this Justin thing is like our inciting incident now that the work's done. Get the bug off the event horizon.
So now the work is done. The Lewis and Clark is viable. So they're after one other small delay.
Yeah, it was like a 5-minute thing.
But the Lewis and Clark is viable, and Lawrence Fishburne has had enough.
Yeah.
So all the rest of the crew are like, okay, let's go. Like it's cool. Let's get the hell out of here. Dr. Weir is like, no. We've got to save the ship. This is the mission. And Lawrence Fishburne does that cool action movie guy thing where he loses his shit without losing his shit.
Yeah.
He basically gets up in Dr. Weir's face and asserts his authority.
Yeah. It's funny because he does the most not horror movie thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because like in horror movies, usually they're going to make the wrong decision for like a moral reason or something like that. Miller just goes, nope, fuck this ship. We're leaving. Our mission was crew's dead. Stuff, get the computers. We're out of here. We're going. We're leaving. Fuck you, Dr. Weir. Like he just leaves.
Yeah, he just tells them straight up,
if
you don't come with us, it's a long walk home.
Yeah, you will be left behind.
And yeah, I mean, this is his Sam Jackson moment from Deep Blue Sea. It doesn't end quite as suddenly, but
No.
A space shark doesn't get him.
So what's funny is they're still having the argument. They've all made the decision. Everyone's kind of scrambling to get
Everybody else is moving towards the exits.
Yeah. And then they have their long walk down the corridor. And now is probably the moment to talk about the plant and payoff. Because when they get to the ship, they notice something about this long connective corridor between the two.
So earlier on, I mentioned there was something about this connective corridor, but that we'd wait until we got to it.
Yeah.
So the corridor that connects the foredeck of the ship to the main body of the ship. It's this long narrow shaft.
It's like a gantry, basically.
Yeah, it's a gantry. It's just sealed off. But there's explosive charges all the way along it. And which
was weird at the time.
As soon as they saw it, everybody's like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
And when they asked Dr. Weir, he tells them, "Oh, well, that's because in the event of an emergency, we can blow the corridor and it separates the foredeck to be used as a lifeboat from the main ship." So now everybody's getting ready. They're going down the corridor, and suddenly one of the charges is missing. One of the explosive charges is missing.
Well, so the argument that's happening right before they leave, and it's funny because the whole shots change all of a sudden. Everything's kind of lit. The event horizon looks how it's looked for most of the movie. And as they're arguing about leaving, Weir is arguing with Miller like we can't leave the ship. There's too much here that we don't know. And Miller goes, "Oh, we're not just going to leave the ship. I'm going to turn around after we get off the ship and I'm going to fire tac missiles at this thing until I'm satisfied it is vaporized." And then all of a sudden, the lights go low, everything starts pulsing, and Weir fucking fades into the background and goes like, "I am her."
And that's it. So
and I'm like, kill him right now, Miller. What are you doing?
Every movie has every good movie has, even if it's a terrible movie, has that one tagline moment.
Yeah.
And Miller says, "We're going home," and Weir fades into the darkness saying, "But I am home."
Yeah, and I'm like, why at this point did Lawrence Fishburne not just choke this guy to death?
Do you not have a space gun? Get your space gun.
Why don't you just put this guy in a headlock until he's unconscious, put him in hypersleep, and then but he just lets him fade into the background. Yeah. And so this is the moment where I'm like, this is the one Larry Fishburne moment in this movie where Captain Miller makes like a weird call to me where I'm like, just kill this guy now. Like he's clearly, there is something wrong with him. Did you not know that you were talking out loud there, Dr. Weir? Like, it sounds like his inner monologue just goes to his outer monologue.
No one will expect it when I kill them all. I can hear you. I can hear everything you're saying right now.
All of the words you just said, you did in front of me. Like, what's happening?
So shortly after, they discover one of the charges is missing. And the only reason
he's just about ready to go
possibly be missing is because crazy ass Dr. Weir. Oh, they've also seen Dr. Weir fleeing from the Lewis and Clark. I'm sorry.
Yeah. He runs away And Smitty's just gotten back because him and Peters are getting the oxygen scrubbers back from the.
And he sees
ship.
Dr. Weir, who wasn't on the Lewis and Clark, leaving the Lewis and Clark.
Yeah.
So he tells Captain Miller this. Captain Miller checks the floor, realizes there's a missing charge. Obviously, Dr. Weir is booby-trapped to Lewis and Clark, so that they have to stay on the event horizon. So.
And Cooper and Smitty are both on this. Cooper's still outside finishing repairs.
So
Smitty's
he
inside.
orders them both back to the event horizon because he knows the Lewis and Clark is about to blow. So Cooper's outside on the outer hull, starts kind of moving around. But Smitty, who through the whole thing has been like, I'm not getting on that ship, continues his belief that there's no way he's getting on the ship and starts tearing apart the area that he saw Dr. Weir in. Because he's going to find the bomb. He's the tech guy. He's going to defuse the bomb, dispose of the bomb, whatever he's going to do. It's going to be fine. He's definitely in a panic, but he's still hard science problem solving his way through things. And then he sees one of the storage areas askew, realizes that's where it is, very confidently says, "I've got you now." Opens it up to see it's down to the last 5 seconds on the timer. Yeah. I miss you, Sean Pertwee. You deserve so much better. You deserve so much better. So
no amount of super glue is going to put his guts back in after the Lewis and Clark explodes.
So at this point, the Lewis and Clark explodes.
And the inciting incident to this that we haven't mentioned is that when Peters and Smitty, which is Sean Pertwee and Kathleen Quinlan, are getting the oxygen scrubbers, Pertwee runs back, Smitty runs back, and Peters is basically left behind. And because she sees this like flickering ghost of her kid, goes back in, and what's happened is after she basically is tricked into, like you said earlier, falling off this gantry to her death in the core, the doctor comes back in and finds her.
Oh, that's correct. Yeah.
Right, and so he finds her corpse, realizes something terrible is happening, and is immediately confronted by the ghost of his dead wife. And this is the most horrifying, shocking scene in the movie, where he goes back to the very beginning where he sees that moment with his wife, but it goes to the rest of what's happening basically.
So it's sort of, so he goes back to that moment where she is putting on her makeup, standing in the mirror, and he starts kind of breaking down, like not exaggeratedly over the top, but he's pleading with her. And he doesn't want her to go, and he doesn't, he'll be home and all these sorts of things. And then she goes into the bathroom and she takes her clothes off, and you see that the tub is like full of water. Yeah. And if you've seen anything that has this setup, you know exactly what's about to happen. Yeah.
There's a highly disturbing realization that
is she Stanley from it?
Yeah, it's actually, I think it's actually the suicide scene from The Shining.
There you go.
That it's cribbed from. It's very much like the bath scene in The Shining.
So she gets in the bathtub, cuts her wrists. And unfortunately for him, because this is not, for him in the moment, it's like it's happening in real time, but he knows it's a memory. Yeah. So he's begging with her. He's pleading with her.
Don't do it this time. Don't do it this time.
But he's just watching a movie. Yeah. Like nothing can change. Nothing is going to change. So to go back to our current day, our current far future of 2047, Sean Pertwee is gone. Which, I almost turned off.
Well, sorry. We should mention, this is the moment where he, instead of being able to watch this happen one more time, he gouges out his own eyes. And that's how Pertwee finds the bomb, is because the stowage thing is covered in his bloody handprints, because he no longer needs his eyes. And you're realizing that the ship has come to him in the form of his dead wife. Yes. And he cannot separate the idea that his dead wife and this ship are not one and the same. And he's basically enthralled now to the event horizon that he sees as like the ghost of his dead wife.
So Sean Pertwee is no more. Yeah. Cooper, who was standing outside the ship,
why is this shit always gotta happen?
Is on basically it would be like a great action figure display case, because he's standing on the inside of a ring of rubble of broken ship. Yeah. Spinning away into space.
Yeah, just disappear into space. Oh shit.
Yeah, and amazing. He has, and it's funny because in any movie you've ever seen where somebody's on a spacewalk and they get detached from whatever they're in, like, you're about to die the worst death imaginable, right? He reacts like most of us would react to, like, blowing a tire on the road or running out of gas, or like he's like, oh shit, like he's like sick and tired of it. He's just like, what do I got to do? What do I got to do? Okay. Gotta blow my oxygen. Gotta blow my oxygen. And it's just problem, solve problem, go back, deal with thing.
Yeah,
Like,
he has a 30-second shot too, which is basically just him completely like having his own movie for a second, solving his own problem, and then just being like, "Here I come, motherfuckers!" as he's flying back towards the event horizon, and then it just cuts back to Miller.
Yep.
Cooper's the best thing in this entire movie. I want a whole other movie about what happens to Cooper afterwards.
There's so many best things in this movie.
Cooper's my favorite. Cooper's 100% my favorite. All right, so we're back on the event horizon. The Lewis and Clark is gone.
So Captain Miller informs DJ, who up until this point, while being very quiet, so DJ is Jason Isaac's character. He's the trauma guy. But he's had a few moments where you realize this is a dangerous person. This is not...
He chokes out Smitty at one point.
Yeah, he chokes Smitty out with a scalpel to his throat.
Yeah.
And he is stone cold.
Yeah, he's a real Jason Isaacs.
Thing.
He's a real Jason
Through the whole thing. So Miller calls DJ on the video phone.
Yeah.
The future phone, whatever it is.
The RCT television.
On the Commodore 64 monitor that they're using. And basically tells him that that Weir is nuts. He's just killed people. And if you see him, just take him out.
Yeah.
And DJ, who through the whole thing, like I said, has been stone cold and clearly seems willing to kill people at very little provocation. Basically says, yeah, no problem. He picks up a bone saw very calmly.
He picks up a scalpel. Then he's like, nah, this isn't good enough. Then he puts it down and picks up a bone saw. He goes through a minute where he's like, what am I going to kill Weir with? He just starts trying to pick tools. Which one of my tools?
Is he Bruce Willis in the pawn shop in Pulp Fiction?
Yeah, he's going through like, I got a whole bunch of things I can kill Weir with. Yeah, I'm going to use this one.
But he just seems like, yep, okay, no problem. Yeah. We'll do that. And then, oh man, like I'm still...
You lose him back to back.
I know, right? Like I'm not over Sean Pertwee. I'm not over Smitty. And he turns around and he's gonna have his moment and he's about to Captain Lorca somebody.
Yep.
And no.
He just get Undertaker chokeslam.
Yeah, he just turns around and Dr. Weir goes full Mark Calloway on him and
Dr. Weir shows up missing his eyes. This is the first time we see Dr. Weir's face. And he's full on ripped his own eyes out.
Yeah.
And he just picks up DJ by the throat and just proceeds to like what is it?
He just ragdolls him. He just ragdolls him.
It was SummerSlam '97 basically.
You know, if you've seen Watchmen, the scene where the comedian gets killed in his apartment, it's that. It's basically that. He just gets thrown around like he weighs 12 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah, DJ's a bad time.
Yeah.
And what happens after he gets like knocked out on a gurney happens so quickly, so shockingly fast, because Miller hears all this happening and immediately starts running towards medical. And in the time it takes Miller to run from the corridor to medical, which I can't imagine is more than like a couple hundred yards, the things Dr. Weir does to DJ happen so fast.
But this is also one of those things where I have to give the movie a lot of credit. Like when I say, you know, I know what the movie wants to be and I know what it is. So you've seen a ton of gore in this. Like you've seen a ton of horrible things happen in graphic living color. And you couldn't do that and have it have the same emotional impact. So he chokeslams him, beats the hell out of him, throws him down on the gurney, pulls out a scalpel. But your first sign of what he's done is when DJ's pupils dilate and the blood starts coming out of his nose and mouth. That's it. It's not the...
Well, you see it eventually. You see do. When Miller runs around the corner, maybe 30 seconds later, and DJ's been turned into a pain angel.
But you see it after it happens. You don't see it happening.
Yeah.
And I think that is really effective.
Yeah, it is.
Like, it's really effective because in the moment, as much as what is about to happen is awful, I think you still somehow make it worse.
It feels like Miller stopped for a smoke somewhere there and we didn't know what was happening, because this looks like it would take several hours to do. Like, he is suspended on multiple hooks from the ceiling. Yeah. All of his guts are out. Like, it is a shocking revelation of what happens to
I'll be there in a sec, DJ. Oh, wait a minute. Somebody sent me a cat video on my phone.
Yeah. And Miller, like, stops to take a dump or something. Like, it's just, he must have given him a good 20 minutes to run from wherever he was to wherever the medical
The new issue of Popular Science and Magnets just came out. I think I'm going to read this.
Fucking ridiculous. And then he has his Ripley building the combi weapon moment, which is one of my favorite, like,
so he basically gets Cooper's staple gun from outside the ship.
Yeah.
And now he's got a staple gun. It like basically shoots railroad ties out of it. So.
He goes, you want to stay here? You're never gonna leave. Like just has this like weird like stinger basically in like the middle of it all.
So we get our confrontation.
Yeah, we're in the third act. We're deep in the third act.
Now we're in the third act. So we get our confrontation between Miller and Weir.
Yeah.
And the thing that I guess Miller completely fails to understand is Weir's not just some eyeless scientist. Like clearly he has the power of Satan clearly compels him.
Yeah, I mean, we watched what's her name? We watched Stark fuck him up with an armbar earlier and just like throw him down on a thing. Like Weir was not a problem for anybody on this crew 15 minutes ago.
But that was 15 minutes ago.
That's right. Yeah, it's true.
And now we're in the far future of 15 minutes.
15 minutes from now. Yeah.
So there's a scrap.
Stark's on the floor, like knocked out.
Yeah, Weir appears to be handling Miller with the same ease he handled DJ with.
Miller immediately loses his gun.
He loses his gun.
It's never used again.
No, it is. It's used by Weir.
I don't know how Weir gets it though. I think Weir must have his own gun because he never leaves the chair. The gun is just sitting on the floor next to Stark. No, it's just sitting on the floor next to Stark and Miller. So and then Weir just also has one somehow.
Fair enough.
And Miller just never uses it.
So he's about to railroad spike Miller to a bulkhead. Mm-hmm. And then the movie's true hero arrives.
The actual hero of the entire
movie. So Cooper comes basically like a bug on a windshield, yeah. Splatters up against the side of the ship.
And then just goes, oh, fuck.
Oh, fuck, because he can see everything going on. Weir turns and fires the railroad tie thing at him. And I got to tell you, I didn't think about this before, but now that we're talking about it, Cooper is the anti-Justin.
Yeah.
Because Justin has all these scenes where you're like, oh my God, he's going to die. And then it's like, oh no, it's worse than dying. He's just getting worse and worse. And Cooper has all these scenes where you're like, oh my God, he's going to die. No, he's fine. He's totally fine. Don't worry about it. He's fine.
Inches from his face, this like spinning railroad tie comes through the window and immediately just decompresses the entire bridge.
Yeah.
For a guy who wants to save this ship and live on it forever, Weir's being real cavalier about the integrity of this ship.
Yeah, he's not a good landlord.
No, and also landlord. Like the Event Horizon has so little safety precautions built into it that like, isn't there like if you have a window on a spaceship, shouldn't there just be like a blast cover that immediately comes down over it if it decompresses? There's nothing like this
in 1997. Space Ocean was
it's like one pane of glass that just immediately vents everything out of the ship.
There is supposed to be a blast shutter, but budget cuts.
Because Cooper's stuck in it. Cooper's just like, oh God, like it can't come down because Cooper's just stuck in this window. Or one of the many rolling office chairs that get sucked out into space gets stuck in it too.
So finally, everybody decides, no, look, enough. just go. Let's just get out of here. Blow the thing. We'll escape, like we'll use the explosives the way they were supposed to be used. Let's just get the hell out of here. That's just enough.
Miller does have his moment though where he gets to relive his trauma and be like, no, this time I'm going to save you, and save Stark, and like pulls her through the door. Because she's almost not going to make it, and he doesn't close the door and leave her behind this time around and pulls her through instead. And so now it's Cooper, Stark, and
Justin.
And Miller. And Justin still in the back to tank. And they're the only ones who survive. But Weir gets sucked into space. Like Weir's dead.
So everything's fine.
Yeah.
Right? Like for the third time in the movie, everything's fine. Everything's fine. There will be no problems.
Yeah.
So, you know what's funny? I just watched it. I don't remember what he goes back on the ship for.
He goes to arm the charges.
To arm the charges.
He has to manually arm all the charges so they can separate the engine from the bridge and do exactly what they planned in the beginning.
Exactly.
Which is use it as a lifeboat.
So, Cooper and Starks.
Yep.
And
Justin.
The Justin-sicle.
Yeah.
are
and back to Justin.
Are on the bridge, and Miller goes back to arm the charges and blow the ship, and surprise, Dr. Weir is back.
Yeah, there's a weird light coming from the thing he goes through, and the doors to the engine room close, and they are the most Chaos Space Marine.
Oh yeah, because when the doors go to close, they're like these interlocking panels, But each one has like a spike in the middle of it.
They look like pads on a Chaos Space Marine tank. Like they have the design of, I don't know what Weir was thinking, like how Weir got the budget for this, because like he's like, no, it needs magnet spikes, and it's like,
why did you let Hawk and Animal from the Road Warriors design your spaceship? Like, you don't need spikes on everything.
Yeah, we didn't need a spiked closing anus door. Like, you couldn't just have like a Star Trek door. He's like, no. Budgetarily, the magnets need this.
The magnets need to be pointy to work the best.
Yeah. Some part of the whatever their fake NASA is had to like not spend money on someone's education or not pay off someone's student loan to get these doors built.
Yeah,
Weir was real cavalier with the tax dollars of future NASA.
Well, they spent all the blast door money on spikes.
I guess.
It's one problem sort of created the other, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
so the thing's lit up, it's spinning around, and Miller's in here now with just weird shit happening.
Yeah. So who do we have in the room? We've got Miller. We have Fire.
Yep.
We have dead crewmen from Miller's backstory.
Yep.
And I don't think we actually see.
He turns into.
That's it.
It's another ghost. He's following another ghost into this like thing. The door closes behind him, and you realize that the ghost is now Weir.
Yes.
And Weir shows up. He's got his eyes back, but he's completely covered in Cenobite like cuts. Like he's just turned into a completely naked Cenobite. We have a fully naked Sam Neill covered in prosthetic scars with his eyes back.
But at least he got his eyes back.
Yeah, he got his eyes back.
That's win-win.
He didn't need his eyes to see where he's going, except if he's going to fight Miller apparently later on.
Yes. Well, you're not going to fight Lawrence Fishburne with no eyes.
You can't fight Larry Fishburne.
I mean,
no.
even the agents take their sunglasses off so they can see him better.
Yeah. And then Lawrence Fishburne gets his ass kicked.
Yeah, he just
over and over again.
Yeah, he gets beaten like he owes Sam Neill money.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it goes bad. But he realizes it's going bad, and he is a space hero.
Yep.
And his whole motivation is that he didn't save this guy from his old crew. He's gonna save who he can from his new crew, and he blows the corridor.
Yeah, he sacrifices himself because the core is activating. They're gonna jump to wherever they were going.
Which, you know what? Sorry, we haven't even said this once during this. At an earlier point, Weir just straight up basically says the ship traveled through hell.
Yeah. He says, I don't really know. It goes somewhere else. And they're like, where? And he's like, I don't know. And they're like, what do you mean you don't know? He's like, I have no idea. I never planned that far. I knew we were going to go to Proxima Centauri. I don't know what's in between that. It's like ... Proxima Centauri.
So he basically made a black hole generator with the same level of planning as the Underpants Gnomes.
Yeah, that's right. And they eventually like managed to get the computer to show them the videos of what's happened on the ship, like the flight recorder.
Yeah.
And DJ is like, I think maybe I mistranslated before. The Latin said save us. I think it said save yourselves from hell. And now we know that this thing is potentially jumping them to some kind of chaos, pure evil dimension.
And it does all these quick jump cuts when they're watching the flight recorder. But it's whatever your version of somebody being tortured in hell would be, you see at least half a second.
It's a Cenobite birthday party.
Yeah, it's a
Cenobite birthday party, basically. It's a Clive Barker like montage.
Yeah.
And as the core is opening and he's about to like blow, and he's like reaching for like the detonator, Demon Weir now basically is like, look, watch, and he's showing them the future of what will happen to all the crew when they get to wherever it is they're going to go when this core reopens. And so, yeah, we have our hero moment. Larry grabs the detonator, bang. But then as like the bridge section's pushed away, we see the core actually finally open.
Yes. And then it basically opens a black hole.
Yeah.
So that's the visual we get. And the event horizon is sucked into the event horizon of the black hole.
Yeah, we have our moment where it does what it says in the text.
Exactly.
Except the cruise or the fore section is basically being pushed away by the explosion and it escapes.
Yes.
But the last half with Demon Weir and Larry Fishburne gets sucked to wherever it is it's going to go and disappears.
And that effectively is the end of the main narrative part of the story. So then we flash forward, and I actually don't remember the flash forward. It's like 2 weeks or...
It's 56 days.
It's another 56
7 weeks. I think maybe you say 7 weeks.
It's some reasonable period of time.
Yeah.
And they are found by the...
Rescue 1.
They are found by Rescue 1, which is the same rescue crew from Aliens, I assume.
Which also seems like they are way more qualified to be doing the job that the original crew got sent out to do.
Yeah.
They show up in what look like super hazmat fireman outfits.
Yeah, they have like some kind of space sealed hard armor thing.
Shit that like Larry and the crew were not wearing.
Maybe they should have had. Maybe everything would have turned out better.
It feels like they went with like the lowest bidder on the first crew, and then Rescue 1 is the actual like
which, to be
military
fair,
that shows
is
up.
Generally speaking one of your underlying themes in any kind of industrial sci-fi, right? Is that what's the cheapest we can do this extremely dangerous job on?
And then they get in trouble because they go with the lowest bidder.
And then you're kind of tease, is it over, is it not over? Is as Stark's kind of is revived, one of the rescue guys pulls off his awesome space helmet.
Mirror Stinger.
And he is he's other Dr. Weir. He's
Weir.
scarred up and
Weir.
eyes out and everything. And she freaks out and starts screaming, and then we snap back to maybe the real world. And he's just a normal dude, and Cooper's trying to calm her down.
He just goes, sedatives! I need sedatives. We have a hysterical woman here.
So the second crew had a much higher budget for, I'm going to say, spaceship, armor, and spacesuits, but clearly a lower budget for medical tech because where was DJ with a syringe in the instant you needed it?
Yeah, exactly. And then we have the most jarring jump to credits of all time.
So throughout the whole movie, you have this kind of like dark, moody orchestral music, which works great. Like it works really well. And then it's time for a sexy dance party.
It's time for the prodigy. It's time to get to the fatherland and funky shit. The most 90s electronic music just pounds out of the television.
Which is,
with some Beastie Boy lyrics of, oh my God, it's some funky shit. I couldn't stop laughing.
It is
so jarring.
When you want to talk about tonal shifts, that is a tonal shift. A choice was made.
Oh my God,
I will say a choice was made.
It's so 90s. It's the most 90s jump to credits of all time. Like at least in like The Matrix a couple years later when they jump to like a piece of music. And like The Matrix has been this all the way through. When they jump to Rage Against the Machine at the end when he takes off into the sky, it's like a very good stinger. This one's just like very sad, traumatic moment with Stark and Cooper. Jumps to the prodigy. It's so completely, totally off. It's incredible.
It's somebody needed to sell some soundtrack CDs for sure.
It's like the only song though. Like it's literally the only piece of electronic music, and the rest of it is this like grim orchestral stuff. I love it so
what
much.
I like to think,
so great.
What I do like to think, having experienced that, is when they got to the second Matrix movie.
Yeah.
And they were talking about all their production choices, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna have this like techno music at the end. I like to think that Lawrence Fishburne was like, hey, wait a minute. I was on a movie before where they did that and it was too jarring. So I think we should have a rave.
That's right, yeah.
In the movie.
That was in the second
to set the tone.
That's right, yeah.
That this music is appropriate for
what
we're doing.
To be fair, the Matrix soundtrack choices were incredible. And also the Wachowskis clearly know more about music and musical overtones and soundtrack design.
I'm not saying
I'm
not saying that didn't work better. I'm just saying I don't know that your underground last survivors of humanity need to be having a rave.
Look, that was the quest for more money. They could have left the first movie the way it was. Warner Brothers wanted more money. It's all good. So that's it. We finished it. We've finished our plot synopsis. We've gone through the story, and I think we're ready for our next section.
Yeah, it's time to cross through the umbilicus.
To go through the umbilicus, we arrive at our gore wall. We start to examine the weird video montages.
Tickets, please. Tickets. All lining up now for entry to the Dark Exhibition.
So we have to decide, once again, is this going to be a moment where we go to the gift shop, or are we going to go and examine the flesh angels, the sculptures, the human sculptures that Dr. Weir is making, and consider this to be art? What do you think?
Okay, so for me personally, I said right at the start, I love what Event Horizon is trying to be, while I also love exactly what it is. So I am personally, inside the J canon, going to decide that this is art. But if I'm being objective, this is super product.
Yeah.
Like this is the product is to product that I have watched in a long time.
This is a make a sci-fi movie that has beats from all of our favorite 90s and 80s sci-fi
Absolutely.
movies in it. And you can see the way the shots are stitched together, like that opening shot with Weir where he's upside down shaving and then it spins, or like it's a full 2001 shot.
Absolutely.
Where we have like a 2001 pullout basically from the space station from like the portal of the window.
And there is Lawrence Fishburne's speaking style through 90% of the movie. He just vacillates between being Apone and being Hicks, right?
Being Apone and Hicks, yeah, those two movies. It's the Colonial Marine like lingo.
Starks is low-key Ripley. Like, and again, the movie on its own to me stands up well. Like, I love the movie. It's entertaining. It does what it does very well. But you would be lying if you couldn't see the point where they were leaning over and copying someone else's homework.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair to this director, that's kind of his Hollywood thing.
Yeah.
He's an adaptation guy for most of his films. He adapts, like, if we look at his like lexicon, he's adapting video games like for I think 80% of his movies.
Sure.
Or he's adapting a previous film, like Death Race is a previous movie that he's adapting into like a modern film. Resident Evil 1 through 1 million, whatever Resident Evil movies he makes, right? Like, even Soldier, I think is an adaptation, or it feels like an adaptation of like a Philip K. Dick story, or not a Philip K. Dick story, I know, I think it is a Philip K. Dick
Soldier,
story.
so the issue with Soldier is that it,
Or maybe Heinlein, maybe Starship Troopers.
yeah, it's funny because it feels like it takes its inspiration from Heinlein, but it is actively meant to be set in the same universe as Blade Runner.
Right.
So even though it's not Philip K. Dick, it's very Philip K. Dick adjacent.
Yeah. So like I kind of forgive him for doing this because he's just doing what he's being paid to do. Like he's adapting all this stuff to be.
Well, again, when you talk
but it does
about,
feel like a very Hollywood 4-quadrant sci-fi thriller.
So again, when you talk about if you like this director and you like what he makes, you'll like this movie. Like this is not a criticism.
Yeah.
But if you know what this director gets paid to make, you will realize that this is product.
Absolutely. And I kind of love it for it. Like this is like, I'm here for it and I own this movie and will watch this movie as like a piece of entertainment because I eat that stuff up. I'm just like, no. Give me more of this like ultra heroicness. Give me more of these like very character actors being characters. You know what I mean? Like when we say that Jason Isaac is being a Jason Isaac type, he is playing his type. You know what I mean? And same with like Sean Pertwee. Like he is playing his like neurotic, like English actor type.
Well, we mentioned in a previous video that the reason that things become tropes is because people like them. Yeah. Like this movie feels like a lot of different tropes kind of strung together. But those things are only tropes because you like them the first time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you continue to like them. Yeah. So, again, enjoy it unironically.
Absolutely.
Like, there's nothing wrong with seeing it for what it appears to be while also just enjoying the hell out of it.
I am a huge fan of Paul W.S. Anderson movies because they are trying to be Hollywood blockbusters. And they are just Hollywood science fiction and Hollywood horror.
My favorite thing is they're trying to be Hollywood blockbusters, but they're my Hollywood blockbusters. Yeah. They're not the Hollywood blockbusters for the people that will buy $1 billion for the tickets. They're for people like me. I love them.
Did he make Mortal Kombat? I want to say he did.
I need to look at second one.
The first one. I want to say he made Mortal Kombat. I want to say he adapted Mortal Kombat because Mortal Kombat is, again, unironically, one of my favorite. I think he did Mortal Kombat. I think it might have been one of his first.
It has
movies.
That feel.
I think it, and I want to know. Oh, hang on, Mortal Kombat. I'm just getting video.
So while you're looking that up, I'll point out that you made the mirror universe allegory with Anderson's earlier.
Yeah.
And I got to say, so again, if you want to unironically enjoy somebody making adaptations of all this source material, consider this Anderson the non-goateed version of Uwe Boll.
A little bit, yeah.
Because Uwe Boll makes horrible stuff based off of all your favorite licenses.
I forgot there was a 2021 Mortal Kombat as well. And it's only showing me that one right now, which is bothering me. Come on, show me the real Mortal Kombat. I'm having my moment where I'm like, because Simon Aquad did the last one. I want to see the original Mortal Kombat. Show me the first Paul W.S. Anderson,
There you
baby. Yeah, I knew it.
You know what? It bothers me that you said.
I knew it.
It bothers me that you
95.
said the original Mortal Kombat. I want to hear you refer to it as the classic.
The classic Mortal Kombat. Yeah, the 1995
the
Mortal
prestige
Kombat.
Mortal.
And you see, that means he did know how to do a soundtrack, because the Mortal Kombat soundtrack is a treasure.
That's true.
An absolute treasure. It had its own Mortal Kombat theme song called Mortal Kombat, which I think was either Orbital or Underworld or someone like that. It's like KMFDM like remixes before they were popular.
See, and I don't have a copy of Mortal Kombat, unlike most of the movies that I've watched, because I rented that.
Yeah.
I went into a Blockbuster video store.
Only Paul W.S. Anderson
and rented that.
would make, what's his name? Christopher Lambert.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Oh, he's so great. I will stand for Paul W.S. Anderson movies almost forever. All right, well, we've done it then.
So we're in agreement on that one.
Yeah, we've been kicked out of the gift shop. We were trying to buy too many flesh sculptures, so we gotta move on.
So our next question is, what lies inside the gravity drive?
Ooh, so we're locked in the gravity drive now.
Pack your bags and chew off your fingers. It's time to spend the night in the Grim Asylum.
All right, so we're in the Grim Asylum. What's written on the walls
So
here?
these are the themes. So for setting, I went with subversion, and the reason I went with subversion, and it's hard to see on a second watch. This is the only problem I have with a movie that is 26 years old, is you've probably seen it before. If you're watching it now, you've probably seen it before. But what I really come back to is this movie, again, much like Alien, it starts off as hard, gritty sci-fi. Like, there is nothing at the start that feels like it's going to be supernatural, that's going to be unnatural. The movie changes what type of movie it is halfway through. Mm-hmm. Like, it's Kubrick 2001 until it isn't.
I would definitely agree with that, because I think that one of Paul W.S. Anderson's actual real strengths as a director is that he is really good at the set design and the art design in his films, capturing what he's trying to make. Like, I would say that like you're right, the first half of the movie is portraying itself as like a hard sci-fi with the look of like a Ridley Scott's Alien.
They're space truckers, right? They're space truckers.
And as soon as the event horizon comes out of those clouds, you are in a castle horror movie. It is designed to look like a castle. The interior of it is designed to look like bricks and pillars. It has Gothic architecture. And you are now cycling in between the safety of like a normalcy of like a spaceship and this like cathedral-like structure that is a Transylvanian castle in the horror movie set.
If you think about it this way, so as an audience, we're going to focus on the characters because the characters are driving the narrative, right? If you remove the characters from the movie, which I know sounds silly, but if you just completely remove the characters and you take the Lewis and Clark and the space station at the start and the journey to Neptune, and then you draw a black line, and then you take the event horizon forward, do those look and feel like two different movies?
Yep.
Like completely different movies.
Did you notice that in the Weir flashbacks that his wife is living in a padded room?
Oh, I did not.
That was a really subtle art, and because everything in a film is placed specifically, I have to assume that was a piece of art design.
I did not notice that.
It would make sense for living in a zero gravity environment for you to be in a padded place.
Sure.
But the rest of the art design of the film never does this.
That's interesting.
There's never any padding on the walls. Everything's very industrial. You can slam into things and it's dangerous. Weir has clearly designed every surface of the event horizon to kill you if the gravity goes out for some reason.
Yeah.
But the interior of where she is living, and you do feel his detachment because he's following her around and she's never acknowledging him.
Yeah,
she looks to be living in a padded room in an asylum. It's all this like drab kind of like taupe, and every surface is padded, which is very interesting.
Yeah,
you get an asylum-y feeling from the situation.
And it's funny because when you talk about the fact that he's very detached, right? Like it very much has that Sixth Sense
observer
vibe
feeling,
where it's like you're there and you have that moment where you realize that other character doesn't see you. They don't realize you're there. And at the end you realize it's because you're watching a movie. He's just reliving an event that's happened in the past. But earlier on, you kind of think they're there together,
Yeah.
right? Like they're interacting, but they're not.
And the set design, and that really does it for me. That theme of subversion, where they take what feels like a hard sci-fi in the movie in the beginning and make it into a horror movie set. Right? They change the look and feel of absolutely everything to now you're in a castle in space.
So the irony in that, obviously, being that as much as I love this movie, I feel like if I could watch it through different eyes, I would see something else.
Eyes you holding the palm of your hand, like the other captain.
Some
does.
kind of flame eyes.
Yeah, like the guy who's standing for Latin. The captain just wants to say every Latin phrase for some reason. It's a great plan to pay off. All right, so what's next?
So for scale, I went with scale for incomprehensibility. And the reason I went with incomprehensibility is, again, it's the transition for me. So Dr. Weir's hubris, and before everything even goes wrong, when Smitty is into the whole man shouldn't meddle thing, they tap on this. So his hubris leads him to tamper with things that he clearly does not understand. Right? Like he doesn't. And he even states that he doesn't at some point, right?
At the end, he panics it out. Yeah.
He could make it work, but he didn't know what he was making work. And that, to me, in a lot of ways, is the dictionary definition of incomprehensibility, right? Like if you're talking about scale being size, like I've never been to Africa, but I know where it is and I know how far away it is. I have a sense of scale with that. But when you're like, I don't know where this thing goes and I don't know what that place is and I don't know if it's between here and there or if it's something different altogether, that is incomprehensibility to me.
And it's funny because you actually get a very strong character portrayal between Smitty and Weir, where Smitty refuses to even confront the question. At multiple points throughout the entire movie, Smitty says it doesn't matter. We don't need to know why this place is evil. We don't need to know why this is happening to know that we shouldn't be messing with it. And in fact, we should. He does the Lovecraft thing where he literally says, our one of our greatest gifts is our inability to know the answers to these questions and our ignorance. And Smitty is like hell-bent on staying ignorant, staying on his island of safety, and never going near these truths.
And again, that's your flip side in that equation, right? Because he has a certain amount of humility around his beliefs that he can believe things without fully understanding them. Dr. Weir's thing is the other side of that, which is the hubris, which is the arrogance that he doesn't need to understand because if he pokes it with a stick enough times, it'll work. It'll make sense. No matter how many magnetic spikes he has to attach to it.
Yeah. And also his idea that he can control it. Like his hubris is not only can I eventually figure this out, but it doesn't matter the parts I don't know because I'm so smart I'll deal with it when it happens.
Yeah. Until
the thing that happens can't be dealt with.
And if you just listen to Ian Malcolm in the first place, none of this needed to happen.
This is all chaos theory.
None of it.
A dimension of pure chaos and evil. He does say pure chaos and evil too, which I think
he does. Like it is the most anything not produced by Games Workshop is going to feel like a 40K prequel.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Especially like a Dark Age of Technology, like prequel where they're starting to mess with warp drives and it just doesn't matter. And there's no Geller field, basically, is what it is. Yeah. If you put this in 40K terms, this is, we went through the warp, we didn't have a Geller field. This is what happens when that happens.
Yeah.
The ship comes back haunted.
And it just feels like it slides completely into that. If it wasn't for the fact that you can't make the characters feel like Imperial Guard or Space Marines, it feels like it could just be
the entire arc design of the aft half of the ship feels like a chaos ship, basically.
Yeah.
And who knows if it was like Weir could, for all we know, be walking around being like, it really didn't look like this when I designed it. Like, what is going on here? Also funny that Weir sent them without him. Like, that ship gets sent with a crew that doesn't have Weir on it, even though he designed the ship. Feels like maybe he knew that it wasn't going to go so well when he sent them out there. They're like chimps being sent up in I
was going to say, you're a Soviet Cosmodog.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, Captain Number One. Don't bother to learn your name. Don't get attached to them.
Don't get attached to them. All right, so what's next?
Life cycle, I chose death. So even though the implications of the universe inside beyond the gravity drive could bring about a greater calamity, like it could be something else, that's really not what's happening here. All that's happening here is people are dying, and it wants more people to die. Like,
and it's personal to each person.
It is.
Like their scary movie is personal to what they're afraid of and what they have had as their trauma.
So as much as with our own context, we want to look at this as either being a Lovecraftian thing or like a Judeo-Christian hell thing, or like a 40K chaos thing. For the characters within the framework of the movie, it's just death. It's just death. That's all it is.
Yeah. It's just that. It's just people, and like what comes after death too. I think that because it's not about things getting worse. Like the theme of entropy isn't really here. It's more the theme of like what happens after you die, or even can you die? Like life and death, that cycle between those two things is kind of called into question here, and that is very strongly implied because, well, his wife is there, right, and clearly knows things about him. Like Weir's never been to this place before. Neither's Miller, but these two ghosts basically have come back.
Yeah.
And they're haunting them. Now, it isn't implied that Peter's son is dead, but yet somehow that ghost is haunting her. So I don't know if maybe her son died back on Earth.
And there are a few inconsistencies with that, right?
Yeah.
Because if life after death in this universe is this hell, then there's no reason for Justin to think dying would be better than living, having seen what he's seen.
Absolutely.
Because he's just going back to it.
He's just going back to it.
So there's, again, it's one of those things you like about this kind of cosmic horror stuff where there is more to it than you're getting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is it a lever that the ship is pulling to get them to do things? Or is it actually these spirits coming back to haunt them? I think it's more the former than the latter. It's this ship knowing what's inside their heads and just preying on them to get them to do what they want.
And I think your hint for that is when, and I forget his name, but the crewman from Miller's backstory is just a hologram, a skin suit over top of Weir, right?
Yeah. Or is that even Weir? Or is that just the ship now
Fair enough.
showing him another thing that he's afraid of and that he's like basically seen as like
that's inside Weir? Real Weir is outside Weir now?
We don't know anymore. We don't know anymore. We've got a Russian doll of Weirs basically showing up all over at the end of this movie.
And then what do we do? For the emotion, I said the emotion is insanity. How could it not be insanity?
Because they're all losing their minds. They all don't know if they're seeing what they're really seeing.
And that's it. I think again. With very few exceptions in the movie, like there's the scene where the thing is trying to batter its way through the bridge door where there's multiple characters there. But with very few exceptions like that, most of them still experience everything when they're by themselves. Mm-hmm. So are we watching what's really happening, or are we watching what we're seeing through the eyes of the sort of classic unreliable narrator?
Yeah. And it's funny because the characters, like there are a few other emotional tones there. Like Smitty is completely driven by fear. He's scared
absolutely.
the entire movie.
Yeah.
And you're given characters as counterpoints to the insanity for the characters who do feel like they're going crazy.
Oh, absolutely.
Like DJ is stoic right up until the end. Cooper is like the absolute definition of stoicism, where he's just like, I will deal with the practicality in front of me, and that will be the only thing that I care about.
See, it's funny because I completely agree with you about Cooper. Like he's stoic. He's in the moment. He's dealing with what he's dealing with. Smitty, fear. The funny thing about DJ though is he stoic, or is he
suppressing?
I don't want to say
maybe?
Insane,
yeah,
but is he mentally disturbed in a way that has nothing to do with what's going on in this movie, and that is what you're seeing. Like his way of dealing with things, there's something not connecting there.
It could actually be him and Smitty both being motivated by fear, and they're just operating differently, where DJ's running towards it to try and confront it, and Smitty's running away from it and being like, fuck this, I'm out of here.
Yeah. But
they're both motivated by fear. Because you're right, you do see the cracks start to show in DJ when him and Smitty actually come into conflict. They're both scared and they're handling it super differently.
Yeah. And the fact that you see, like, Miller obviously knows, him and DJ know each other very well. Like, they reference that later on in the movie.
Yeah.
But
they have like a heart-to-heart moment.
But the fact that in that moment where Smitty and DJ throw down, you can see it's the first time Miller looks uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to, like, he needs DJ, and DJ's a valuable crew member, but he's not talking him down like, I'm a captain giving you orders. He's talking him down like, please don't do this.
Yeah. And he's confiding in him.
There's something going on there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I alternate between fear and insanity because the tones of fear in this movie are what the ship is using to leverage them. So while they are kind of wondering if they're crazy throughout the entire movie, what they are the most afraid of, their trauma and their grief and the thing that they are afraid to confront is constantly what's being presented to them by the ship, and is like the inciting force for them to take action over and over again. And that was the tone I got the most from it, is that the ship is scaring them into doing what it wants to try and get more people to come with it back into wherever it's come back
I think it's interesting because you could take a step back and you could say that the emotion that they're feeling as an audience member watching it from the outside looking in, you could almost make the argument that the emotion that they're experiencing is not what you're meant to absorb nearly as much as what you're absorbing is the range of coping mechanisms. Because they all cope with, like, they're all dealing with effectively the same thing, and the way they cope with it is wildly different. And not better or worse. Just different.
Except for Cooper. Cooper's the best.
Yeah, fair enough.
Cooper's the best. Cooper is untouched by all of this. He is literally the only one at the end of the movie with no trauma. He's just like, come on, Stock. You're okay, Stock. I promise you're okay. He's like handling all of it, which is fantastic. All right. I think our last bit is themes of like futility and hopelessness.
Yeah, I didn't really have a huge thing on tone. I went with bleakness.
Okay.
But I went with it in the absence of a better descriptor.
Really? Because I actually felt a lot of the futility with the stinger. Without the stinger, they get away. It has kind of a Hollywood happy ending. But the door closing on the final shot before we get our wonderful musical moment right at the credits, our perfectly tonal music moment, is a screaming Stark being comforted by Cooper, not knowing whether the front half of the ship is haunted too. Right? Because she's had a vision, and this is her first vision. She's the only crew member that we know of that's witnessed everything happening, but we haven't seen her have a vision, and now she's had a vision of Weir as like the rescue officer, basically, as Rescue 1.
So this is your spinning top as we fade to black.
That's right, as we fade to black. This is our Nolan moment that Wes Anderson kind of ham-fisted at the very end to, oh my god, that's some funky shit. Where like you don't know if they've actually defeated the bad guy or not, because they still have the front half of the ship, and is this whole thing starting over?
Now, to be fair, because I know people don't necessarily like it when we have something negative to say about things they like. If we're being really honest about the end of that movie, that shit was pretty funky.
It was pretty funky, yeah. But well, it's also funny because this is what we talked about other later movies kind of lampooning or like cribbing from this storyline, and Ghost Ship being almost like beat for beat a similar movie to this. Is Ghost Ship, spoiler alert, ends with the same moment where the cycle repeats itself, and it feels like the cycle is going to repeat itself. I think they used like some new metal as opposed to some
it was, as was the style at the time. As it was the style at the time.
They drop into some sweet early aughts.
My favorite thing about Ghost Ship being like telling its story is like them looking at these movies like this and thinking, too subtle. Let's call the guy Ferryman.
That's right. Let's give him the name Ferryman. So I guess that's then our like tonal dissection. I do think that this qualifies it as grimdark because we had all these like
absolutely
in here. So where do we put this thing? Because I think it's time for the final part.
Yeah, the Throne of Skulls.
The Dark Lords of the Void wish to know, where does this media sit upon the Throne of Skulls?
So I ranked this number 2 of our 4 choices so far.
Okay, so what's your list? We have 4 things on the list.
So now. I've still got the Call of Cthulhu as number 1.
Let's do 4-3-2-1. Let's do 4-3-2-1.
Oh, 4-3-2-1. Okay.
4-3-2-1. Yeah.
So
I knew you were gonna have Call of Cthulhu as number 1.
So for my fourth, I did Last of Us 2.
Okay.
It's certainly grim dark, but Last of Us 2 is more personal grim dark. Last of Us 1 was more globally grim dark in my mind.
Sure.
My third was Astartes.
Okay.
Event Horizon was number 2.
And
again, the Call of Cthulhu remains at number 1.
Remains at number 1.
Top of the pops.
Wow. Okay. So my personal list. I'm sorry that this is gonna have to be this way, but Event Horizon's on the bottom right now, man. It's on the bottom of Throne of Skulls. Is my number 4.
All right. Well, this is the last time any of you people will see me here.
So number 3 is going to remain Astartes. Number 2 is Call of Cthulhu, and my number 1 pick for the most grimdark thing right now still is going to be The Last of Us Part 2. The Last of Us Part 2 is above the Call of Cthulhu on this list.
I didn't realize you could be that wrong, but hey, do what you.
And for important reasons to me is while something can be foundational, I still think that The Last of Us Part 2 is more grim and more dark than the Call of Cthulhu is because of how the emotions can, like the emotion I felt playing that game is the grimdark palette of emotions. And for art to like pull that emotion out of me, that I don't feel those emotions as strongly from the Call of Cthulhu. And that could just be because I've been so soaked in it for so long that it doesn't have the same emotional resonance.
So you know what's funny? So as you say that, and as I look at your list, and as I look at my list, I realize why they're fundamentally different and probably will continue to be.
Yeah.
Is because you're looking at it from the inside out, and I'm looking at it from the outside in.
That's right.
That's interesting.
And that's why to me this ranks at the bottom right now is I see the emotional. I see where the emotional resonance is supposed to be, but I don't feel it at all.
Yeah, fair.
Right? Because I'm so amused by this movie, entertained by it. I'm having such a good time through it. It's so gleefully hitting these tropes. I'm not feeling them. I'm watching the actors feel them, if that makes sense. I'm watching the characters in the story.
Justin did not suffer so you could be entertained. Sick bastard.
If they just hadn't called him Baby Bear for the whole movie, maybe if they hadn't tried to make me feel sad so hard, I would have actually felt sad. But they served up Justin like a Thanksgiving turkey, and so I clapped through Justin's traumas as opposed to actually feeling them.
That poor guy.
Yeah, I know. I don't know, maybe I'm the monster, and maybe in this case, I'm the event horizon of this.
You're the event horizon on the event horizon, falling into the event horizon.
That's right, yeah. And so we've come to the end now. We know where both of us have placed this on the Throne of Skulls. And we can talk a little bit about the next one, which is going to be actually picked by the patrons. They've been voting on this for a little while now. I think we closed it after a week, and they did our patron-produced episode for Game Media for this one, and they picked Rangers of Shadow Deep by Joseph McCullough.
Oh, okay.
As a piece of grimdark gaming media, which is an interesting choice because I didn't think... I expect people aren't going to actually see this as being as grimdark as it actually is when we dissect the storyline.
The preface of it, or the premise of it, certainly is. Yeah. I don't know. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there.
And yeah, man, thanks for this pick. I love this movie. I know, and that's the thing is, I know you're going to keep. It's funny because tonally, I think I'm going to make us feel bad, and you're going to entertain us. And so I hope these episodes continue to be as like paranoid as they are about why we pick these things, because I know what you like and I know what I like, and I think it's gonna make for good time.
We're gonna take everybody on an emotional roller coaster where everyone will just be unhappy for different reasons.
Yeah, that's right. Nice. Exactly. All right, well, thanks for watching, everybody.
See you next time.